This trip, carried out of season, allowed us to visit places normally invaded by mass tourism, without the crowds of tourists, allowing us to admire the beauty of these places with due calm. The journey by camper, which lasted about 20 days, allowed us to visit the east coast of Sicily, touching some of the most beautiful Sicilian Baroque cities. The journey then continued to the island of Malta, as we will see in the next video. On the road to Reggio and Messina, we made a detour to Tropea, located on the coast of Calabria, already visited on other occasions, but always a wonderful place to see. The symbol of Tropea is the promontory with the church dedicated to Santa Maria dell'Isola. The coast and the sea around the promontory are incredibly unspoiled, and the transparency of the sea always surprises, even those who have already visited the area before. The church has no particular works of tourist value, but the position and the view from the churchyard is very suggestive. Behind the promontory, on a rocky ridge, stands the historic center of Tropea. A group of houses clinging to the edge of the rocky ridge. Of particular interest is the 12th century Cathedral of Mary of Romania, built in tuff and lava stone. From the terraces and squares you have a wonderful view of the coast below. Do not miss the narrow streets of the center, always crowded with tourists, especially Germans, in any season. Another icon of Tropea is the mythical red onion. The campsite is next to the promontory, less than 100 meters from the center. We skipped the planned visit to Messina, because it was impossible to find a campsite open at the end of September, so we continued to Taormina, where this inconvenience does not exist. Taormina is also full of tourists in late September. The visit starts from the coast, from the beautiful island now managed by the WWF, but until 1982 private property with 12 residential villas. Taormina is located 200 meters higher on a small plateau. It is one of the most important international tourist centers in the Sicilian region, known for its natural landscape, marine beauties, and historical monuments. Taormina has been one of the main tourist destinations since the 19th century in Europe. In the 80s it was also the end of the Taormina sweet life, and the beginning of mass tourism that still today, especially in summer, upsets this enchanting village. The Cathedral of Taormina is dedicated to San Nicola di Bari. The first information on its existence dates back to the year 1000. The facade is characterized by a crown battlements, while on the back stands the bastion tower, on which the bells have been placed. The main facade houses the portal inserted between the two single lancet windows of the 15th century, with an ogival arch. The most famous monument is the ancient Theatre of Taormina. The theatre is used as an outdoor theatrical structure for various forms of entertainment ranging from theatre to concerts, from David di Donatello award ceremonies to symphonic concerts, from opera to ballet. It is dug out of the rock and the scene has as its background the Ionian Sea and Etna volcano. It has a maximum diameter of about 109 meters and a height of about 20 meters. The auditorium has an accessible capacity of 4,500 seats. Over the years, artists have performed such as Deep Purple, Elton John, Mika, The Pooh, Venditti, Duran Duran, Sting, Mark Knopfler, Simple Minds, Santana, Lou Reed, Peter Gabriel, Tracy Chapman, Patti Smith and Renato Zero. This 3D reconstruction is interesting, showing us what theater looked like in Roman times. Taormina can also be reached by cable car. Behind Taormina, 300 meters even higher, stands the village of Castelmola, which obviously offers an even more spectacular view of the coast than that enjoyed from the terraces of Taormina. The square is the belvedere on the underlying Taormina. It has a mosaic floor in white and lava stone. Defilated on the right, there is the ancient arch that marks the entrance of the village placed on a stone staircase, which emphasizes its beauty. Opposite is the San Giorgio Coffee, founded in 1700, one of the most typical places in the country. Its notoriety is also linked to the specialty of the small moles village, the almond wine, of which the old owner is the inventor. A mysterious dark amber liquor in which different smells and flavors of Sicily blend. Only the ruins of the mighty Norman walls remain of the castle. Catania is the most populous Italian province that is not also the regional capital. During its history it has been repeatedly affected by volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. The Baroque of its historic center has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Uliatru, the elephant symbol of the city, is a porous lava stone artifact, surmounted by an Egyptianizing obelisk of uncertain chronology, with figures related to the cult of the goddess Isis. The cathedral is dedicated to the Virgin and Martyr Saint Agata, patroness of the city of Catania, and is located in the historic center of the city. The facade has 3 orders in Corinthian style and attic completely in Carrara marble. The first order consists of 6 granite columns, possibly originating from the Roman theatre. The interior is a treasure trove of works of art, wrought iron gates, treasures and relics. La Pisceria is the retail fish market of Catania, today an unmissable destination for tourists. The characteristic of this market is the so-called vuciata, translatable with cry, a commercial scream designed to advertise its goods or to reveal its price. The construction of the Ursino Castle has a square plan, each side measuring about 50 meters. The 4 corners are equipped with circular towers 30 high. Inside the castle lived some of the most important moments of the War of the Sicilian Vespers. Here the Sicilian Parliament met, who elected Frederick III as King of Sicily. The Roman Theatre of Catania is located in the historical center of the city. Its current appearance dates back to the 2nd century and has been highlighted since the end of the 19th century. Next to it stands the minor theatre, called Odeon. The Porta Giuseppe Garibaldi, initially called the Ferdinandia Gate, is a triumphal arch built in 1768, to commemorate the wedding of Ferdinand I of the Two Sicilies and Maria Carolina of Habsburg-Lorraine. Via Etnia is the main street of the historic center that winds from south to north, and is about 3 kilometers long. The entire historic center of Catania is littered with beautiful Baroque palaces that belong to the noble or wealthy families of the city. The characteristics that unite them are the Baroque style, the rich friezes of the facades and balconies, and the blue-violet color of the facades, as all the plasters use local lava stone. The monastery of San Niccolò Laurina is an ecclesiastical complex consisting of an important Benedictine monastic building and a monumental 18th-century church. In 1669, following the devastating eruption of Etna, the flow reached and surrounded Catania, lapping the walls of the monastery and injuring it. The casting front is still visible today. Syracuse has a 1,000-year history. Its foundation occurred around the year 730 before Christ, by the Corinthians. Listed among the largest metropolises of the classical age, it excelled in power and wealth with Athens, which attempted in vain to subjugate it. Homeland of artists, philosophers, and men of science, it gave birth to the famous Archimedes, among others. The historic center develops on the island of Ortygia. The Cathedral of the Nativity of Maria Santissima rises on the elevated part of the island of Ortygia, incorporating the columns of the main Doric-style temple of the Greek city, dedicated to Athena and converted into a church with the advent of Christianity. Its style is mainly Baroque and Rococo on the outside, while inside it alternates parts dating back to the time of the Greek temple and parts dating back to the medieval period, built by the Normans. Its internal structure is composed of several naves and chapels, which have a classic and decorated style, typical of the Baroque. Of great religious significance, it houses statues, relics, and remains of saints, martyrs and noblemen from Syracuse. Font Aretusa is a body of water on the island of Ortygia, in the oldest part of the Sicilian city. The visual appeal of a source of fresh water that reaches underground to the island and then pours its waters into the sea has fascinated many poets and writers. Numerous papyrus plants grow inside the source. Near the source, some colossal trees grow in a garden, a true spectacle of nature, which offer their shade to the numerous tourists. The Manius Castle, built by Federico di Sfavia, has a powerful quadrilateral structure of severe appearance by virtue of its defensive purpose. At the four corners of the building are four cylindrical towers harmoniously inserted into the masonry. The decorated marble portal contrasts with the general aspect of the work, preeminently military, whose depth of display is decorated with artistic friezes, even if today they are very damaged. The Roman amphitheater of Syracuse is one of the most representative building constructions of the early Roman imperial age. The part of the cavea is largely excavated in the rock, while almost nothing remains of the upper part, perhaps built in masonry, which doubled the area of the theater visible today, making it one of the largest Roman amphitheaters ever built. The amphitheater, brought to light in 1839, has monumental dimensions. It seems it can be estimated 140 meters long and 120 wide. This structure is also used today for prose shows and concerts. The Ear of Dionysius is an artificial cave located in the ancient stone quarry called the Latomia del Paradiso. Excavated in limestone, it develops in depth with an S shape, which also makes it a place for acoustic amplification of sounds. Just this particularly sinuous conformation of the walls leaves open the question whether it was only a quarry or if it was used to amplify the sounds. The architectural form of the Shrine of Tears has been highly criticized. Its large concrete mass has dominated ancient and important places of worship. The structure is subject to various interpretations. The architects set out to structurally implement the concept of humanity's elevation to God. Do not miss a walk through the narrow streets of the historic center of Ortigia. The Diana Fountain is a monumental fountain built in the early 1900s, which highlights the figure of Diana with arch and dog, the patron saint of Ortigia in the Greek era. At his feet is Arethusa, who stretches out while the transformation is taking place. The Church of San Giovanni alla Catacomb was probably the ancient cathedral of Syracuse. Today it is completely homeless, but it is still consecrated and widely used for weddings. The Syracusan cuisine and pastries must not be neglected. Noto is also known as the capital of the Baroque. The Cathedral Basilica of San Niccolò was seriously compromised by the collapse of the dome and two naves in March 1996. The building was reopened for worship in 2007. It is named after San Niccolò. The interior of the church is divided into three naves which house many works of historical and artistic importance. The chapel at the bottom houses the precious 16th-century wooden ark covered in silver foil, finely worked, containing the remains of the patron saint of the city. The Immaculate Church of San Francesco dates back to 1700 and imposes itself with the three-flight staircase and the three-order Baroque facade. As soon as you enter, both on the right and on the left, there are the funeral monuments of the noble families of Noan adorned with valuable paintings. The Church of Santa Chiara, in Baroque style with an elliptical plan without aisles, was adjacent to a monastery of cloistered nuns, and the numerous grates allowed them to attend religious services. Palazzo Duccio, seat of the town hall, has a convex facade characterized by 20 arches supported by columns with Ionic capitals and rectangular windows in the upper section. Inside, the Hall of Mirrors is worthy of note, an ovoid hall furnished with Louis XV style furniture. All noble palaces have elaborate Baroque engravings on the facades, true works of art. The shelves supporting the numerous terraces are finely chiseled and still well-preserved masterpieces, an open-air museum. Modica, like other historical centers of the Val di Noto, owes its particular urban configuration to the uncommon conformation of the territory. Many houses in the old part of the city, leaning against each other, are often the extension of the ancient caves, inhabited since prehistoric times. About 700 caves that were once inhabited, incorporated in new buildings, have been surveyed. The Cathedral of San Giorgio in Modica is often indicated and reported as a symbol of Sicilian Baroque. The imposing tower facade, which rises to a total height of 62 meters, was built starting from 1702. The dome rises 36 meters. A scenic staircase of 164 steps, completed in 1818, leads to the 5 portals of the temple, which act as a prelude to the 5 internal naves of the church, which has a Latin cross basilica plan and 3 apses after the transept. The interior of the church is divided by 22 columns surmounted by Corinthian capitals. Between the naves you can admire a monumental organ with 4 perfectly functioning keyboards. The Cathedral of San Pietro is accessed by a beautiful staircase with the statues of the 12 apostles, called by the people Santoni. The sober but imposing facade is divided into 2 orders and embellished with 4 statues. The second order is surmounted at the apex of the facade by the sculpture, in high relief, of a Jesus Christ in triumph. Modica is famous for the chocolate obtained from roasted and ground seeds and not deprived of cocoa butter at a temperature not exceeding 40 degrees. It is mixed with brown sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, ginger, or chili pepper. At the Chocolate Museum you can admire sculptures in Italy made only of pure chocolate. Sicily is a monumental Baroque city with the shape of a sublime living nativity scene. In 2002, its historic center was awarded the title of World Heritage Site by UNESCO. The Palazzo Beneventino is considered the most beautiful Baroque palace in Sicily. Characteristic irreverent masks adorn the 2 monumental elevations linked by a remarkable cantonal. On top of this stands the crowned coat of arms of the Beneventino family decorated with 2 heads of Moors, now one of the symbols of the city. The Church of San Bartolomeo Apostolo dates back to the early 15th century. The interior has a single nave with a Greek cross and is substantially in Baroque Rococo style. The Palazzo del Municipio was built in the early 20th century on the site of the demolished Benedictine monastery. It became famous thanks to the series of Commissioner Montalbano, where it appears as the headquarters of the Commissioner's office. Ragusa and Iblat are 2 neighborhoods that form the historic center of the city. The ancient city contains over 50 churches and numerous Baroque buildings, many of which are UNESCO heritage sites. In the eastern part, above a spur of rock, is the Ibleo Garden. The entrance consists of a magnificent avenue flanked by numerous palm trees, is very well cared for and adorned with benches, columns with stone bases carved in different shapes and an elegant balcony with limestone fence. Inside are the Church of San Vincenzo Ferrari, the Church of San Giacomo and the Church of the Capuchins. The Cathedral of San Giorgio is characterized by the monumental tower facade which incorporates the bell tower into the prospect and ends with a bulbous spire, recalling the 17th century wooden tabernacles of the Capuchin churches. The location of the church at the end of a high staircase and the oblique position with respect to the square below accentuate the grandeur and harmony of the building created by the presence of free columns. 2 pairs of volutes act as a link between the various different levels. On the cusp, under the cross, we read the date 1775, which indicates the conclusion of the facade works. The interior is divided into 3 naves by 10 sturdy stone pillars, with a large plinth in pitch. In the intersection of the transept with the central nave stands the double-domed dome, resting on 2 rows of columns. The space between them is occupied by glass which gives the dome its characteristic blue color. On the walls there are numerous paintings of important artistic value. The Cathedral of San Giovanni Battista is among the largest churches in Sicily. The majestic facade, rich in carvings and sculptures and divided into 5 parts by large columns on high bases, is enriched by 3 portals. The central one is decorated with columns and statues of exquisite workmanship. In front opens a large churchyard, raised above the square below and surrounded by a balustrade in pitch stone. It is also called the City of Bridges, due to the presence of 3 very picturesque and historic buildings. Here too, the richly carved balconies could not be missing. The city includes an area with wide and straight roads, and an area of medieval origin with irregular paths. The Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore is the most famous monument of Ispica. The facade of the church is simple and linear with Ionic and Corinthian capitals. In the center there is a large window where the Most Holy Christ on the column is represented on glass, while on the sides there are two statues, now eroded by time. On the churchyard in front of the basilica there is a large porch consisting of 23 arches, many of which, at the time, were used as artisan computer shops. The interior has a Latin cross with 3 naves divided by pillars, and comprising 4 chapels. From Ispica begins the return along the coast, which offers us beautiful beaches and villages on a crystal clear sea. Our destination is Catania, where the ferry to the island of Malta awaits us, which will be the subject of the next video.